And to the angel of the church of Smyrna, says he who is the first and the last, write, I was dead, and now am made alive. Who is this one that was dead and now is made alive? What does it have to do with the second day of the creation account of Genesis chapter 1? And ultimately, why does it deal with the seven spirits of Isaiah chapter 11? Find out here tonight on this new episode here on Sons of God Ministries. How you doing tonight? God bless you. Thank you for coming to Sons of God Ministries, where tonight here we are on part 4 of this new series, the Cosmological Revelation, Kingdom Within. Tonight we are going to be talking about the church of Smyrna, the second of the 7 churches of the book of Revelation, chapter 2 and 3. Now, honestly, I thought we were going to get through about 2 to 3 churches tonight. That's not the case. There's only 4 verses talking about the church of Smyrna. But guys, the stuff I have found, you will never hear this. I'm telling you this much right now. You're never going to hear this on the internet. You're never going to hear anyone talk about this. This is some deep stuff that we're about to get into tonight. Matter of fact, I was blown away by understanding it. And now I truly understand the second day of the creation account of the book of Genesis. So before we get started tonight, I want to let you guys know that if you want to support the ministry, you can go down to the link in the video. There's going to be a PayPal link, and you guys can click on that. You can donate whatever you would like to give if this ministry has been a blessing to you. Also, I want to let you know that we are actually starting a new merchandise system, a new logo system as it is. I don't have it in this video tonight, but I will be bringing that to the next one, so on and so forth. This is going to be a new chapter, a new revealing in this ministry, Sons of God. So, first and foremost, if you guys remember, last week we were talking about the church of Ephesus. And we showed you how this actually deals with the root chakra going into the sacral bone, which, beyond a shadow of a doubt, actually looks like a serpent's head. This is important to understand because if you remember, we correlated in Isaiah chapter 11 the Spirit of the Lord, the Spirit of Yahweh, to the spirit that hisses. Zechariah chapter 10, verse 8 to 10 actually tells you about how Yahweh was going to hiss for his people and he was going to bring them up out of the land of Egypt. It's not talking about literal Egypt. It's talking about the Egypt within the lower mind, the lower understanding, the lower consciousness. But I found even more tonight. And I have to talk to you guys about this because I was friggin' blown away by it, honestly. First and foremost, before we even get started with the church of Smyrna, I need to lay this foundation right here, right now. Jesus baptized with fire. John the Baptist told us that. He said, I baptize with water, but he that's coming after I is going to baptize with fire and with the Holy Ghost. Okay, the Holy Spirit. We also know that in the book of Genesis, the serpent was going to eat the dust of the earth. But the serpent was also going to be lifted up on a brass pole. We also know that Jesus said in John chapter 3, verse 14, that as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up. Now, this is important to understand. The reason why I'm saying this is because, let's look at this. Isaiah chapter 14, verse 29. Rejoice not thou, whole Palestina, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. Interesting. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery, flying serpent. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery, flying serpent. Well, there's a reason why I say this. It's the serpent's root. We just talked about how Yahweh is the serpent hisses, but even in Isaiah chapter 11, it tells us right from the get-go, in Isaiah chapter 11, verse 1, and there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. What is the branch? The branch is the spinal column. The roots is talking about from the rooted nature that deals with the root chakra. The anatomy of your body looks like a serpent's head. So when in Isaiah chapter 14, when it talks about how out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent, it's talking about the serpent being lifted up. Do you guys see what's going on? The rod of he who smote the people of Palestina. Isaiah 14 is focusing specifically on the king of Babylon. His rod is going to be broken. Remember, you have to understand, you can look at things through a fleshly lens or you can look at it through a spiritual lens. What's going to happen is the branch is going to be lifted up, which is Christ, or the spinal column, which is made strong for the energy to travel up the spine, because the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and the fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent. Why is it fiery? Because Jesus baptizes with fire. I hope you guys are seeing this. And that's why out of the root, the branch shall grow. Because it's talking about how the fiery flying serpent is going to actually ascend up. That's why Jesus is the serpent. He is the first and the last, the beginning and the end. He's there with us from the beginning. Now, with that understanding, what we need to do is we need to go back to the book of Revelation. In Revelation chapter 2, we're going to talk about the church of Smyrna. I wanted to lay that foundation because I'm trying to show you how that deals actually with the church of Ephesus. It's in the root. Then we get to the sacral. And within this place, this is actually in the sexual organs. This is the angel of the church in Smyrna. Now, the angel of the church of Smyrna is the second of the 7 churches. But what does Smyrna actually mean? Smyrna is a word that means myrrh. Okay? So the word Smyrna means myrrh. All right? Fascinating stuff. So the angel of the church in Smyrna, or the angel of the church of the myrrh, writes, "These things saith the first and the last, which was dead and is alive." All right, we got that right? So now, let me find it. This is going to blow your guys' mind. All right. Myrrh is actually a representation. Well, first off, myrrh is actually a representation of death, burial, and resurrection. The Magi in Matthew chapter 2 actually brought Jesus myrrh. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. The myrrh is a representation of the death, burial, and resurrection. So now it makes sense why it's called the church in Smyrna, which is the church of the myrrh, because myrrh is an ointment that is used for death, burial, and resurrection, just like it says he who which was dead and is now made alive. But we're not talking about something physical. Matter of fact, if you remember, there was a woman that used an oil of spikenard that actually poured it upon Jesus' head. And it was a woman. Well, what does the woman have to do with myrrh? First and foremost, the second Spirit of the Lord is the Spirit of wisdom. What's the word for wisdom? Sophia. So the Spirit of wisdom is the Spirit of Sophia. And now the second Spirit of God in Isaiah chapter 11, which is the Spirit of Sophia, actually aligns with the second church of the angel of the church in Smyrna, or the Myrrh. The reason why I say that is because myrrh is actually associated with women all throughout the biblical scriptures. Okay? This is going to be interesting. Saint Mary Magdalene, the myrrh bearer, and equal to the apostles. Mary Magdalene was one of the myrrh-bearing women and equal to the apostles. She was born in the town of Magdala. Magdala had a tower. That's important to understand. Because towers, branches, rods, all a representation of the spinal column. Now, what's fascinating about all this is that the church called her the myrrh bearer. Because as Jesus was a representation of the Father on earth, Mary, the myrrh-bearing woman and equal to the apostles, was a representation of Sophia. Are you seeing where we're going with this? Isaiah chapter 11 tells us that the second Spirit is the Spirit of wisdom, it's the Spirit of Sophia. The book of Revelation, the second church, is the church in Smyrna, which is the church of Myrrh. The myrrh bearer was Mary Magdalene, who is a representation of Sophia on earth. So, what ends up happening here? Now, Revelation, the church, lines up with Isaiah chapter 11, one of the seven spirits. But does it align with the book of Genesis when it talks about something specific as well? Well, let's check it out. Genesis chapter 1, what does the Bible tell us? In Genesis chapter 1, we already went through the first day of creation last week. What is the second day of creation about? Remember how I told you that Revelation chapter 2 is only 4 verses, yet there's so much stuff in here that I was kind of overwhelmed by it? Well, the thing is that with this, Genesis chapter 2 isn't very, or Genesis chapter 1, the second day creation account isn't very long either. Okay. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 6, it says, "And God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day." So first and foremost, what we have here, it says the firmament is heaven, and there's waters above heaven, and there's waters below heaven. But Jesus tells us, don't take any of these things physically. So what is heaven? Heaven's within us. So if heaven is within us, then the firmament, or the water that is above the conscious mind of the clouds. All right? the water is above the clouds in our mind, because the Son of Man comes on the clouds of heaven, but heaven is actually in the clouds, in the heavens, but there's water up above that, and then there's waters below in the deep beneath. Okay, are you with me? Now, what ends up happening here, these waters of the firmament are not broken through until the time of Noah. All right. In Genesis chapter 7, verse 11, it tells us, in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up and the windows of heaven were open. So it wasn't until Noah's time that the windows of the heaven were open from the creation of the second day. In the story of Noah, it's not a physical flood. Okay, it has nothing to do with a physical flood. It actually has something to do with something very highly esoteric, and there's a reason for it all. We're not going to get into that today, but I just want you to get an idea that the fountains of the deep were not broken up. The firmament of the heavens was not opened up until a certain point in time. But the heavens is never something physical. It's always spiritual. Okay? So the heavens are spiritual in this sense. Okay? So Genesis chapter 1, speaking about the heavens, what we have here is the water. Water above the heaven, water below the heaven. Okay? But what is water a representation of? We just said the spirit of wisdom is the spirit of Sophia. The second church, Smyrna, is about Myrrh, which the myrrh bearer was Mary Magdalene, or a representation of Sophia on earth. Now we have actually what Sophia is. Let's look at it. In certain mystical and Gnostic traditions, particularly within the concept as Sophia as the divine feminine, she is often symbolically linked to water, representing its fluidity, life-giving properties, and ability to purify, mirroring the idea of Sophia as a source of wisdom and spiritual nourishment. So now Sophia can be included in the second day of creation because she's like the waters. Let's look at this. So Sophia is included as a representation of the waters, but also the second chakra, which is the second church, because the kingdom is within, is also a representation of the water, because it's the sacral chakra, connecting it by being close to a lake, river, or ocean is helpful. It will promote balance in the sacral chakra and help regulate emotions, passion, and creativity. Okay. So let's go ahead and get this straight. The Church of Smyrna, in Isaiah chapter 11, the spirit of wisdom is the spirit of Sophia. Smyrna means myrrh. The myrrh bearer was a woman named Mary Magdalene, a direct representative of Sophia on earth. The second day of creation is a representation of the water that is above the firmaments and the water below, and the waters don't burst forth until the days of Noah, or the days of the new, basically. And water, according to different circles, is a representation of Sophia. Behold, out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water. But not only that, the second chakra is linked to water as well. So we got four things that are linking up. Some people might sit there and try to say, oh, you're trying to connect things that aren't there, Josh. That's four things for you that just connected. All right? But let's go ahead and continue before we keep on going within this. All right? In Revelation chapter 2, verse 9, the Bible reads, I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. How are you rich? Because you're storing up treasures in heaven, where moth and rust don't corrupt, in the spirit. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. Why? How are they a part of the synagogue of Satan if they're Jews? Paul tells you, like straight up. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. I don't care who you are, what you think. It's all spiritual. All right? The Bible is all spiritual. And if you don't think so, then bring a good reason for it. And matter of fact, if that's the way you feel, come to one of my TikToks and we'll talk. All right? I have no problem with that. Let's look at this. Verse 28 of Romans 2. For he is not a Jew, which is one outwardly, neither is that circumcision, which is outward in the flesh. But he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of God. If you're trying to praise men, you're praising the flesh. But if you're praising God, Jesus tells you that God is spirit. They that worship him in spirit and in truth. Therefore, the entire book of Revelation is spiritual. That's why in Revelation chapter 1:7, where it says, every eye shall see him, even they which pierced him, the word eye there is the word ophthalmos, which means the mind's eye. We went over that in part 1 of this series. If you have not watched all this series, you need to go back and you need to look at that. Okay? So they are a part of the synagogue of Satan, those who make these things fleshly. Because a Jew is one inwardly. It's not a tribe. It's not a nationality. It's a certain select people that actually have eyes to see and ears to hear. So it's a spiritual book, clearly. And if it's a spiritual book, the kingdom of heaven is within you. The kingdom of God is within you. Therefore, the churches are within you. Therefore, the angels over those churches are talking about what we talked about in part 2. The frequencies of light that fracture off into the 7 colors from the white light that hits our world. All right? Verse 10. Let's look at verse 10 now. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried, and you shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison. What does Jesus talk about prison? Matthew chapter 5. Let's look at what Jesus talks about with prison, okay? Agree, is Matthew chapter 5, verse 25. We're going to read the verse 26. Agree with thine adversary quickly. Who is the adversary? Adversary means the Hasatan, the Satan. This is the devil. Agree with thine adversary quickly. So who is the Hasatan or the Satan to the spirit? It's the flesh. It's the flesh. The flesh will cast you into tribulation, not your spirit, man. The flesh will. Agree with thine adversary quickly, whiles thou art in the way with him, lest at any time the adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou be cast into prison. So now we can see why the book of Revelation says, behold, the devil, the adversary, shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried. Because it's talking about flesh things. He's going to try your mind. This is why you got to get out of the fleshly understanding. He tries your mind by you going back to religion. And yes, religion is looking at these things in flesh. You don't have to be a part of a denomination. You don't have to be a Pentecostal or a Baptist or a Methodist. If you think that these things are fleshly, you are religious. That's all there is to it. That's what the Bible's telling you. And that's what the words that came out of Christ's mouth were. All right? Remember, if we go back to this right here, it tells us that the adversary will deliver you to the judge, and the judge will deliver you to the officer. Okay? And you shall be cast into prison. All right? Now, in Revelation chapter 2, it told us that a Jew is not one outwardly, but inwardly. And Paul told us in Romans chapter 2 that the Jew that is one inwardly has circumcision of the heart. Okay? So what are we getting at here right now? I'm trying to tell you. None of these things are fleshly. None of these things are fleshly. It's all spiritual. So, if you're cast into prison by the devil where you may be tried, how do you escape the prison? Well, Jesus tells you. Straight up. He tells you. All right? And what does he tell you in verse 26? Verily I say unto thee, thou shalt by no means come out thence till thou hast paid the uttermost farthing. You know what the book of Revelation says about that? You know what that's talking about? Let's talk about it. Let's see how it aligns with the book of Revelation. Revelation chapter 2, verse 10, told us, behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison that you may be tried. And you shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. What is going on here? You shall have tribulation 10 days? What is the 10 days? 10 in the circles of mysticism and in biblical scholarship is a representation of divine perfection completion. All right? Divine perfection and completion. And if you know about the 10 Commandments, Paul tells you that the 10 Commandments are holy, just, and good, yet they're the law of sin and death. You can either make these things good or you can make them bad. The 10 Commandments become something good when a man uses them within his inner man. They become something evil when he uses them in outward flesh. This is a part of the synagogue of Satan. Because the synagogue of Satan, Satan is the flesh, Satan is the adversary. Satan is a representation of the carnal things that you see with your physical eyes. That's why Jesus tells the religious leaders in John chapter 9, verse 40 and 41, I'm not going to pull it up, but you can go look it up. He actually says that you guys think you see, and yet you are blind. Because he came to speak spiritual things, not physical things. All right? So when it says, you shall have tribulation 10 days, you shall have tribulation until you have come unto perfection, and you have paid the uttermost farthing. That's when you'll come out of the prison house. That's when you'll come out of the tribulation. That's when you'll come back to God. Okay? When that happens, that's when you will reach that point. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. Being faithful unto death is unto the death of yourself. Paul tells you, I die daily. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt of the second death. What is the second death? Jesus tells you in John chapter 5, verse 24 and 25, that those who heard his word were coming out of death. So what is the second death? Well, death is reincarnation. The second death is reincarnation. You will be brought back into this world. That's why it says, some of you shall be cast into prison that you may be tried, and you shall have tribulation 10 days. You will come back into this world, and you have to come to the point where you can get through the tribulation of the 10 days, the completion, the perfection, to take those 10 commandments, place them in your inward man, realize that none of this is physical, and realize that everything that we have to deal with is spiritual. Why do I say that? Because Jesus tells you straight up in Matthew chapter 5, that you will not escape the prison till you have paid the uttermost farthing. It's not saying that you're going to be destroyed. Energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be transmuted or redistributed. You will come back to planet Earth. You will go through these trials, these tests. You will have to overcome them, come to a place of perfection after those 10 days, and then you will go into the temple of God, become a pillar. Revelation 3:12 tells you that you will no longer go out, but will become a pillar in the temple of God. We haven't gotten there yet. We will get there. We're only in Revelation chapter 2. But do you see how much meat is in just these verses right here? So when it says they will not be overcome by the second death, the second death is reincarnation. Because when you're born in this world, you're not born in this world. You are dead in this world. That's the second death. Okay, now let's get back to this entire standpoint of the reason why we went through these verses right here is because I'm trying to show you how it's a spiritual book. It's a spiritual revelation. If it's a spiritual revelation, the second church of Smyrna is spiritual. The Spirit of the Lord over here, which is the second spirit, Spirit of wisdom, Spirit of Sophia, is spiritual. It aligns with the second church. It aligns with the second day of the creation count of Genesis 1. And it aligns with the second chakra, which is talking about water. And the second day is talking about water as well. Are you guys seeing how these things are actually aligning and how they're coming together? Now, here's the thing, okay? I need you guys to realize this. The water that is being spoken about is associated with Sophia. If the water that is being spoken about is associated with Sophia, and the water is above the heavens, and then there's water below, and it wasn't until the days of Noah that the firmament was broken, and then the waters from the higher realm rushed down, then what is this water talking about? Because it's inside the body. It's not talking about something outside of you. Well, we know that the church of Smyrna means myrrh, or the myrrh bearer. We know that Mary Magdalene is a representation of Sophia, and she is the myrrh bearer. Well, what's fascinating about all that? We also know, based on this, that myrrh is an oily sap that comes from the bark of the Camophora tree. My friends, you are the tree that holds the myrrh within your body. That's the entire point. You hold the myrrh within your body, but you have to bring that life up, that oil up through you. And what is that oil? The chrism oil is also called myrrh. Okay. The chrism oil is also called myrrh. What? What is the chances of the chrism oil being called myrrh? What is the chances of Mary Magdalene becoming the myrrh bearer? What is the chances of the second day of the creation account aligning with the second church, aligning with the Spirit of wisdom, the Spirit of Sophia, which is a representation of water, or the myrrh, which is ultimately a representation of the chrism oil? Because, my friends, Genesis chapter 1, the firmament that divides the heavens from the firmament that is above and below, the waters is the chrism oil. The firmament is the heaven. The firmament being heaven is in your upper mind, the upper levels of your consciousness, your nature. Did you know that nowadays the chrism oil actually drops down and it goes into your inner belly? So now it makes sense. Because what happened is in this account of the creation, the chrism oil that stayed up here was actually in separation to the chrism oil that was down here. So there was no uniting them, because there was a firmament. But after the days of Noah, the deep broke, the firmament broke, and the waters could fall. The chrism oil could fall. So now, the midst of the waters, which is a representation of Sophia, or those chrism oils, because Jesus says, out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water. Now, in the process of this, scientifically, what ends up happening? In actual reality, what will end up occurring is the chrism oil within your body drops down And then it goes into your belly, it goes into the sea, it goes into the inner depths, it goes into what would be known as the abyss, which is in your lower consciousness, and then it's transmuted through the meditation in the rising of the chakras. So now you can see why he who was dead was made alive, and how myrrh is actually used for death, burial, and resurrection. Because the resurrection is about you raising up. It all connects. There's no disconnect. I pray that this was a blessing tonight. I pray that this helped you guys. I pray that you guys are seeing that. Do you see how much information we just went through in just the second church? I wanted to do 2 or 3 churches. I can't do it that way. This is freaking unbelievable what is going on here. Seriously. It absolutely blows my mind. All right? And just to reiterate everything that we just talked about, your sacral bone looks like a serpent's head. Jesus baptizes with the fire because you must raise this up as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness. The Son of Man will be lifted up. If you remember, the Son of Man is the solar plexus energy, but the Son of Man energy has to descend and ascend. This is the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. Okay, these are the frequencies of light. What happens is, the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice. This is the serpent's root. It shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent, because the fiery flying serpent is going to fly up your body, because it's going to hit every single church, the candlesticks, the lampstands, and next thing you know, it's going to set you on fire. That's what it's talking about. Nothing else, nothing more. Actually, this is a lot, but still, I'm trying to get you guys to understand this point right now, that this is what it's talking about. It's not talking about physical things, guys. This is why Jesus was so pissed off at the religious leaders, okay? This is amazing stuff going on here. Now, out of the 7 spirits of God align with the 7 churches, align with the 7 days of the creation account, align with the 7 chakras. The second spirit of God is the spirit of wisdom. The spirit of wisdom is the spirit of Sophia. The second church of the book of Revelation is the church in Smyrna. Smyrna means myrrh. It is the myrrh bearer. The myrrh bearer was actually Mary Magdalene. She pours oil or spikenard on Jesus's head, and it was actually myrrh. And she's equal to the apostles. She's also equal to being a representation of Sophia on earth. Okay? Now, the water that is created in the second day of the creation account is related to Sophia because she is symbolically linked to water. All right? But water being linked to Sophia is also linked to the myrrh, and the myrrh is actually linked to the chrism oil. It all connects. I hope you're seeing it. Because the chrism oil, after the church of Ephesus, the root, after you come out from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, from the duality, and you're coming unto the tree of life in the paradise, what you're doing is you're disconnecting yourself from the things of this world, and you're starting to realize, now, once you hit the church of Smyrna, the myrrh or the chrism oil is rising up. And once you overcome the devil, you will not be cast into prison anymore. You will not be cast back into reincarnation. You will go through the tribulation of the 10 days, or the number of completion, perfection. And once that ends up happening, that is when you will come to the acknowledgement of the truth, and you will no longer suffer the second death. Guys, I pray that this was a blessing tonight. I pray that this helped you. The kingdom of God is truly within us. It is within you and I. If you would like to support the ministry, you can do so by going down to the link in the description. It will give the PayPal. You can do that if you would like, if that's something you want to do. We would appreciate all the help we can get. But I pray that this is a blessing. I pray that this has been helpful. I know a lot of people aren't going to see it, and it's okay. That's fine. But guys, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I've searched for all this truth. I've searched for this truth for the past 10 years of my studies. This is it. We've reached it. And just like Revelation chapter 1 verse 7 says, every eye shall see him, because it's not your physical eyes. Your physical eyes are the thieves. The two thieves that died with Christ on the skull of Golgotha, that were crucified, are the eyes. The eyes, the physical eyes, have to be crucified. The physical eyes have to die. That way the Christ can rise up, because it's talking about your spiritual eye, the mind's eye. I pray that this was a blessing. I pray that this helped you. God bless you guys. I love you. Have yourself a lovely evening. In the name of the Holy Father, the Holy Mother, Pistis Sophia, and us as the children, the Elohim, there are. We are. Ultimately, what it comes down to is I am. I am, because I am. The singular I. Am. Present tense. God dwells in the midst of me. He dwells in the midst of you. And ultimately, we are fractal pieces of God taking an experience into this world to learn from our mistakes and ultimately become better. God bless you guys. I love you. Have a great evening. Jesus' mighty name, Father's name, Pistis Sophia's name, the Holy Mother. Blessings. I love you. I'll see you soon.